Okay, so this is lesson 1 of module 4. What we're going to be talking about is setting goals. So it's really, really important that you know what you're shooting for. Oftentimes when I talk to school directors, they and I ask them what their goals are for enrollment, like it's a very sort of muddy answer. They're not really sure. They have a clear understanding of how many students they're licensed to have, like at capacity in their school, but they haven't actually determined how many students they want within any particular time frame. I usually ask, what are your enrollment goals for the next 12 months? And what are your enrollment goals for the next 3 months? Which should be very different, obviously. And that should be defined. So I want to talk about how to approach goal setting, because before you do anything, that's your first step. So I always tell people it's really important to take a moment and vision, right? Like think about, what does wild success look like? What is the perfect situation for the school? And that usually goes beyond just how many students are enrolled. You should also think about what it looks like and what it feels like and what it sounds like, and let yourself really dream. What is the best scenario that you could possibly ask for in your particular role at the school? And don't hold back, right? And define all this stuff, and make a vision board, and do anything you can to get really, really clear, but also excited about what you're shooting for. Most people that I talk to, they just don't believe that they can actually get there because they've never gotten there on their own. Maybe they used to be there, so they might have a good sense of what it can feel like. But even if they were at capacity at some point, I ask them to go further. I ask them to really dream and write that stuff down and define it, because that's step 1. Remove all self-limiting beliefs and just define the most optimal scenario. So that's a place to start. Then you have to figure out how to get there. Okay, so that's not enough. That's the best place to start. But what's your next step after that? So you want to define goals, very specific goals, and so there's a concept called SMART goals, and so SMART's an acronym, right? SMART. Obviously, you know how to read. So S is for specific, right? You want to make sure you understand exactly what you're shooting for, specifically. Okay, we're looking to increase enrollment. But is that specific enough? No, it's not. So I would say you might want to go one step further. We're looking to increase enrollment with the ideal type of families. And, or maybe we're looking to increase enrollment with families that can pay full tuition. Whatever it is, get specific. Then the M in the acronym is measurable. You want to make sure you can measure exactly how many students you want to grow by, or other elements as well, right? Maybe I want to increase enrollment by 15 students, and I want to reduce my workload by 2 hours a day. The administrative workload of managing the admissions process. So get specific and get measurable. You want something that you can measure so that you know if you hit your goal or not. If you're not measuring, you don't know. And much like I've talked about before, tracking measuring the success of different stages of your enrollment process is very important, and this is what you should do before. This is the overall measurement of the success of your strategy, and you want to be actionable. So that's the A in the acronym, actionable. You must be able to explain all of the action steps, and and you have to make sure you know exactly how you're going to hit your goal. So if you're sitting down with, a donor or another stakeholder or a bank, and they ask you for your marketing strategy, you should be able to explain all of the action steps that go into every stage of that strategy. And that's going to make sure that you understand not just exactly what you're trying to achieve, but that's going to explain how you're going to get there. And when you understand that, whether you're the one doing it or not, you should have the action steps clarified so that you know the tactics that are going to be employed to achieve the goal of that strategy. Then we get into the R. That's realistic. So, visioning is obviously a wonderful process, but you want to make sure that it's realistic. So, as I mentioned in previous modules, from 1 year to the next, you can't be expecting to double where you're at. It's not even a good idea. So you have to make sure that you have a pragmatic, awareness. So like the vision doesn't have to be achieved in one shot, but you might have a 2 or 3 year strategy. And, so that that if running a school there's 8 different key performance indicators of that business. And enrollment is one of them. And if you only focus on enrollment, then you're going to be ignoring other very crucial elements of the health of the business. So it's important to know what your goals are and that they're realistic in regards to what will allow you to also manage the full business, not just one part of it, because that's what you really need to do. So make sure you're being realistic. If your goal is to get to capacity, but you're currently at 40 or 50% capacity, then it's not realistic, and I wouldn't even say it's advised to shoot for getting to capacity within 1 year. That is a massive difference, right? You would be talking about doubling the entire size of the business, all of the revenue coming in, which and with the revenue comes a lot of exponentially more workload and challenge and complexity, more parents to manage, more staff to hire, more staff to train. There's more administration that you need. So you want to make sure that your enrollment growth coincides with what's a healthy pace of growing all of those other parts of the business. So if you can shoot for, let's say a 10% enrollment growth year over year over year, that's both manageable and advisable on simply an operations level. The last goal, the last element of the acronym is T, so that's for time-based. So you want to make sure that you're boxing your goals within a time frame, okay? And so if you've just got these ambiguous goals and even if you've gotten specific, but if you haven't put that on the calendar, then you have nothing to work back from. And that's really crucial with project planning and goal setting, is that you've got a specific goal and you've got a way to measure it and your action steps. But when is it going to happen by? If you don't have a date, then again, you don't have a goal, because achieving those goals and those action steps should all be organized from the date at which you want to hit that goal. Okay, so if you've developed a realistic goal, that has to be tied to a date, and then from that date you want to start working back. So by this time we want to have an increase of tuition by 10%. Okay, so let's say that's 6 months down the road. Great. So having a time frame is crucial, because that gives you the date where you can work back from. So let's say you want to have that goal identified by, you want to have 10% enrollment growth within 6 months. So then what is it going to take to get there in 6 months, where do you need to be 3 months before that? And to get to that point, that goal, that halfway point, what do you need to do within the next month? Okay, so you've got that clear now. So within the next month, I need to do this so that I can get to this point in 3 months, and then that will make sure that I can get to this point in 6 months. And that's why you need to be really clear on the action steps as well, because that's going to make, you have to assess. These are the actions that need to happen. This is how much time it's going to take me to get that action, that tactic employed. So sometimes, once you figure that out, you might say, okay, well, you might be wrong, and that's okay. It's, as long as you're setting everything clearly, right? So let's say originally you take a look at, in 6 months we want to be 10% increase in enrollment. Maybe that's 5 more students. You're at 50 students. You want to get to 55 students within 6 months, and that'll be a good, pragmatic, practical goal, realistic goal with everything else that you're doing. Great. So 5 new net new students. So you might know that you've got some students that aren't going to be returning. So really, maybe that means you have to get 10 students. Maybe you have a 90% retention rate. So all in all, you need 10 students. Perfect. So 10 net new students. So ultimately 10 new students within 6 months by a particular date. Work back to 3 months. Okay. Well, to make sure that those guys, those 10 students, maybe it takes about 3 months to go through the full process of all the different meetings with parents' schedules and everything. Great. So let's work back to 1 month from today. What do I have to do to get, let's say 100 inquiries into the enrollment process? All right. So I would say that just in general, 6 months is really the most, I would say, the most realistic, the most realistic time frame that you should be thinking. When you get everything figured out and you employ a marketing strategy, some students are going to move faster, and you can, once you start employing the strategy, things are going to start working. But you want to just make sure everything is laid out in a very realistic, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-based method, so that you've got full clarity. And again, you can present that to any, you should have it so clear and so well organized and detailed that you can present that to anybody that might be, a stakeholder, and they understand exactly how you're going to get to that goal. So this is the second lesson in Module 4, talking about how to use open houses or events to bring in, to generate more enrollment. So I'm not really, I don't have a whole lot to say about what you do inside the event, because there's something that is amazing that goes on in Montessori schools. I talk about this a lot with, at different lectures that I give. I think that the business world, I think Harvard Business needs to do a study on what happens during a Montessori tour, because it's whatever goes on in those tours, and I've gone through them myself. It just is a overwhelming experience for these prospective parents. It's the conversion rate, meaning the rate of enrollment decisions that happen at the point of which a parent comes into the school, is abnormally high. So for some reason, the experience of parents coming into a Montessori school is one of the most effective sales strategies that exists in the world today. So there's something incredible going on, and my suspicion, based off my own experience and talking to school directors all day that do this, is that essentially it sells itself. Okay, you don't have to learn how to do sales. So take a breather on that one. You don't need to read sales books or anything like that. Just keep doing what you're doing, and don't change a thing. So I want to talk about other elements of getting parents into this school. So ideally, when parents come in for those open houses, you want to make it as close to a one-on-one tour as possible, right? So basically, you might call it an open house or group tours, or some type of event. But the idea is get parents into the school. I think it's really, really critical that they see what's going on. So ideally, again, like it's during the day, you want to try to make it as convenient as possible. But I would stay away from evenings and weekends. It's not a great time for people to be working. Parents are also, the parents that do work don't necessarily want to go touring schools. So the approach that I usually suggest is you pick a regular day of the week where you've just got a process. Like, this is your open house day every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. And it's regular, and you can develop a process around it. It's great to have that because it's great to do group tours because, of course, you're getting more people, you're getting more bang for your buck, so to speak. You're doing the same amount of work, but you're doing it with multiple people. I see some schools have a bit of a hybrid, like they don't do one-on-one tours, they only do group tours, and they do them on the same days and times every week. That is certainly the most efficient way to do things, and I think that might be, so it's like, again, you can free up more of your schedule, not be as much at the whim of all the other prospective parents' schedules, and you can focus that type of resource, that energy that you have for doing tours in smaller, more narrow time frames. You can't ultimately get away from doing one-on-one tours, but if you prioritize, let's say 2 days a week at different times, then you're giving parents options, and also you can really hone your tour experience. Again, there isn't really much to do. I wouldn't change anything. I'm more talking about the administrative process around it, because tours can be really time consuming. So the fewer tours you can give, and the more efficient you can be, the better. The more margin you're going to have in your day. So I also want to talk about how you get parents into that tour, right? Like, you have to, and I've talked about this in the past, but you want to make sure that you're essentially selling them on that tour. Now, there's other things that I see schools doing that are great ideas as far as what we call lead generation. So I'm going to break apart things like tours or open houses from a different kind of event where it's not really about the tour. This is a step before the tour, and we might do like educational nights, things like that, like maybe once a month or once every 3 months, where you're inviting parents in the area to come in and learn about how to learn about strategies to help them particularly. So it's really like it's not about selling your school, it's about giving them helpful information. So very much like your content strategy that we talked about before with your emails and your website and your blog. It's just it takes a lot more time and effort to actually be present and develop some type of presentation. I think that's a great idea, and it's kind of a step in between somebody reading a blog or reading a newsletter and coming in for a tour. And it's a wonderful way to get a whole bunch of parents into the school and in for an information night. Again, it's a gift. It's a gift to the parents in the area, and of course you can target them with ads. So you're making sure that you're targeting parents that are relevant to you, that are actually likely to be a good match for your school, just like you're targeting the ads for direct enrollment open house or tours. But marketing events are, so parent education events, talking about, different parenting topics, or something that's entertaining. It doesn't even have to be educational. It can literally just be like you host, a comedian or something, but you want to pull in the right people into your, or maybe a book club. There's a lot of ideas, and you can be creative and you can think about them. But what you want to do is you can use events. It's almost like you're just like, it's like its own event for its own purpose. But you're making sure that event is filled with people that are a relevant target for you in regards to enrollment. And then, of course, when they're there and you essentially have a captive audience, at the end of the event, you can make a quick mention to, maybe you're going to offer a tour right now, or you can give them a pathway to booking a tour in the future, so that you're developing a relationship with a lot of people at one time. So it's a very high value point. And again, ideally, you want to make sure you're using a system that allows you to track who came and who took the next step, so you can actually see if how well this strategy is performing for getting prospective parents into a tour and ultimately enrolling. But there's a lot of different ways that you can optimize the tour. You want to use digital forms and things like that rather than paper. You want to use things that are trackable, so that again, you should have an enrollment system so that any parent from any source, whether it's an ad or word of mouth or an event, are coming into this this system that's tracking everything, so that hey, this tour or this event strategy is actually performing really well, and so then you can be consistent with it. So I would say that managing these events should be planned out well in advance, ideally on a regular day and time. So whether it's group tours, open houses, or just parent-focused events, if you can keep it regular, then what you can do is create a process around it so that it's going to be probably a lot more work for the initial one or two events, but once your process is kind of figured out, it'll become really easy, and no sweat to manage, especially if you're using a good enrollment marketing automation system. Then the kind of like the process and the busy work around those events will be automated, and all you have to do is plug in a little bit of information into the system. So to summarize, however you perform tours, what you show and what you say, just stick with that. You're going to be definitely the expert on how to do that at your school, but utilize group events as much as you can to reduce efficiency. To increase efficiency and reduce the workload around one-on-one tours, so that you can optimize your time and create more margin in your day.